Hello everybody and welcome to another video review by the MXQproject. In today's video we are going to look at another TV box. It's the Mini M8s Pro. It's got an Amlogic S912 Octa-core processor, it's got 2GB of DDR3 RAM, and it's got 16GB of internal storage. So join me today as I look at the box itself and then power it up and see what this thing can do. My name is Scott and you are watching another video review by the MXQproject. So before we power this thing up, I'd just like to have a quick look at the box itself, at the actual hardware. Now, it's not as mini as the name would suggest. It is after all called the Mini M8s Pro, but that's not a massive thing for me. I think it looks quite nice and sleek. It's got a very unobtrusive design, unlike a lot of the boxes that we've seen lately, which have opted for gimmicky kind of designs like the V88 Piano and the H96 Max, which have gone for bright, colourful, gimmicky kind of design features on them. This is a very standard looking TV box and it would not look out of place by your TV or on your TV unit or wherever you wanted to put it. It's not going to attract too much attention to itself. On the box itself, we've got two USB 2.0 ports, we've got the standard HDMI output, power jack, Ethernet port and an optical audio port as well. There's also a little SD card reader there as well for micro SD or TF cards, and that is pretty much it for the design of it. It feels very lightweight, it does feel well made, and yep, it's just completely unobtrusive, standard looking TV box, nothing more to say about it. So let's power this thing up and take a look at the firmware that it's running. So here we are at the main screen of the Mini M8s Pro, and it's got a very standard launcher, but it works very well. It's one of my preferred launchers. But what makes this really interesting, this box is actually running Beelink firmware. Now we can't confirm whether Beelink actually manufacture this box because it comes completely unbranded. But we do know that Beelink does sometimes produce boxes that don't carry any of their branding or logos or anything, so there's nothing to tie it to Beelink themselves, such as the W95 box that Matthew reviewed quite a number of months ago. But nonetheless, this is running Beelink firmware, so I think we could at least expect a decent performance because Beelink are well known for producing really good, really stable firmware. So if we go into settings now and go to the About section, we can see that it's the Mini M8s Pro and it's running Android 6.0.1, so it's running Android Marshmallow. So this firmware would appear to be a little bit dated now that we're well into the release of Android 7 and even Android O now. So Android 8 is coming out and some of these boxes are rolling out with Android Oreo. But this is running Marshmallow, but we're going to see how we get on anyway. I don't think we're going to have too many problems because I believe that Marshmallow is a pretty stable operating system myself. But for now, let's go over and see what kind of apps we get installed as standard with this firmware. So these are all the stock apps that you get installed on the firmware. Ignore some of the other ones like Antutu, for example, because I've installed them myself to do some tests further on in the review. But the stock apps that you get with this are the file browser, the internet browser. You get a fork of Kodi on there as well, which is going to be shown a little bit later on in the review again. But we'll see how we get on with that. You also get the update and backup app, which I'm going to show you just now. And then we've got a couple of other things like the media player and the Mirrorcast apps and things like that. So very little in the way of bloatware, which I like about this box. It doesn't come with a load of outdated apps, and it doesn't bog you down with stuff that you don't really need. So it's a very clean, very kind of minimal firmware, which I very much like to see. But now we're going to have a look at the update and backup app. So here is the update and backup app. If you've had a TV box before, the chances are you've seen this app before as well. It's very standard stuff. It's just to basically allow you to change or update your firmware using an update file on a USB stick or SD card, and you can install that manually. There's also the online update button here, and on this box it will take you to an OTA update app. Now what this will do is search online to see if there's any updates for the firmware being pushed through by the manufacturers. But anyway, let's move on now. We're going to go to Antutu and check out the benchmark score on the Mini M8s Pro. So here are the Antutu benchmarking results for the Mini M8s Pro, and it has scored a very impressive 57,123. Now this is using Antutu benchmarking 7. It's a new version of the tool compared to the previous versions that we've used in other videos, and this is the highest scoring box that we've ever reviewed so far. Now whether this is because it's a new version of Antutu and the scoring system is different, I'm not entirely sure, but 57,000 is a significant increase in score from what we've seen before with previous TV boxes. So when we test out gaming and things like that, we'll be able to get a better reflection of those results on whether it's performing any differently to previous boxes with this processor and this GPU. But yeah, we'll move on to the gaming now and we'll take a look at that performance and see if it reflects this Antutu score. But otherwise, I'm very pleased with this result. So we're on to gaming performance now, and we're going to load up Asphalt 8 Airborne first. It's a game that we usually use on these reviews to test the gaming performance, so today's not going to be any different. Now I'm going to go into the settings menu and just show you that the game has defaulted its visual quality to high. Now usually this varies depending on the specs of the box, but today it's defaulted at high, so I'm going to leave it at that, which is going to be very interesting because a lot of these boxes don't perform very well when the graphics settings are ramped up like this. So we're going to see how we get on with this, and I'm going to load up a race just now. Now even before the race has started, just this intro animation, it's really smooth compared to other boxes. There's no frame rate drop, the animations are really smooth, and it just looks really nice. Now playing it just now, the controls are responsive, there is no frame rate drop again, no graphical glitches, everything's just really smooth, the gameplay is excellent, it looks amazing, and this box has really surprised me with how well this is running. Like I said a little bit earlier, a lot of these boxes, even the higher end ones, do tend to struggle with this game when their settings are ramped right up. But on this, there's zero issues whatsoever, and I'm really pleased, and hopefully it's a sign of things to come when we move on to a couple of other games. Now next up, we're going to be testing a game called Beach Buggy Racing. We've not done this one before, but I thought it'd be nice to shake things up a bit. So I'm going to boot up Beach Buggy now, and we'll see how we get on with that one. So this is Beach Buggy Racing. It's a game that we haven't tested before on these TV boxes when doing these reviews, so I wanted to change things up a bit. So let's go have a look at the graphics settings here, and you can see a lot of these advanced settings are switched on, so we've got things like really good shadow detail and things like that, so it'll be interesting to see how this performs. But let's just start a race up quickly. Now already I'm seeing some graphical glitches here on those trees. You should be able to see that on screen. But that should be sorted by tweaking some of those settings. You may need to turn some things off or dial some things down a bit. But overall, it's performing very well, just like Asphalt was. There's maybe slightly more lag than in Asphalt, but nothing majorly noticeable. It's performing really well, and I feel that you could sit and play on this for ages without any major issues. Just a couple of graphical glitches on those trees, which should be sorted, like I said, in the settings. But let's move on to our next game now. We're going to play Modern Combat 5, and this is a game that usually struggles on these boxes, so it'll be interesting to see how the Mini M8s performs. Last but not least, we have Modern Combat 5, and unfortunately it does seem to be struggling quite a bit, especially when you compare it to Asphalt 8 and the performance of Beach Buggy Racing. Now that's not to say it's a bad thing, and don't let that put you off. It's still outperforming most of the boxes we've tested this game on in the past. So it could just do with maybe dialing those visual quality settings back down to low or optimal, because they are on high at the moment, and there's some noticeable frame rate drops and lag there, especially when there's a lot of stuff going on screen. But that's okay, it's an intensive game, and I wasn't expecting wonders from it, but overall I'm very impressed with the performance of the games on this device. So if you want a device you want to play a lot of games on, especially 3D games, then this is going to be a very worthwhile purchase for you. But we're going to move on now, and we're going to test some 4K video. So for the first time ever in one of my video reviews, I'm able to comment on the UltraHD 4K capabilities of these TV boxes. I finally made the leap, and I bought myself a 4K monitor. Now you can see on screen the resolution that I'm watching this video in. Unfortunately, you can't see it in 4K yourselves because I have no means of capturing a video in 4K at the moment. My capture device will only capture video up to 1080p, but I've left the stats on the YouTube app, and you can see that I'm watching it in UltraHD 4K, and it's at 24 frames a second, which is a standard frame rate for movies and things. So if you want a device to watch 4K movies on, this device is not going to let you down. It looks absolutely stunning. I've also tested other formats as well. I've watched videos in 2K, 4K at various frame rates from 24 to 30 to 60 frames a second, and it handles them absolutely no problem, and it looks absolutely stunning. So if you want a device that's capable of 4K, you are going to be able to find not much better than this Mini M8s Pro. And last but not least, I mentioned it at the beginning of the review, but we are going to look at this custom Kodi fork that comes pre-installed on the Mini M8s Pro. Now, it's actually a fork of Kodi 16.1 Jarvis. Now, it's quite dated, obviously, now that we're well into the release of 17.6 and even early versions of Kodi 18 layer. So, very outdated version of Kodi. It's completely blank though, no random external add-ons, but it runs okay. Not sure why they felt the need to fork Kodi and then not do anything with it, but it's a very outdated version of Kodi, so if you're wanting something like that, then you're going to need to update to a later version to get the most out of it. And I think that about brings us to the end of the review. So what can I say about the Mini M8s Pro? Well, it's an exceptionally well made and well thought out piece of hardware. It's certainly a great Android TV box. It's got really good firmware on there as well. Don't forget it's running that B-Link firmware, so it's really stable and smooth, if not a little outdated with the fact that it's running Android Marshmallow, but I wouldn't let that put you off because it could handle everything I threw at it, and it certainly does everything that it intends to do. So really great firmware on there as well. If you want something for gaming, the gaming performance was exceptional, and it's certainly one of the best boxes that we have reviewed gaming wise. It's got the highest Antutu score of all the boxes we've reviewed as well, and that certainly showed when running games like Asphalt 8 at the highest settings. It was absolutely great, so if you want a gaming device, then this is going to do you very, very well, and I couldn't recommend it more. It's also great for 4K video playback as well. It can play 4K video up to 60 frames a second without any issue whatsoever, and it looks absolutely stunning. I'm just a bit gutted that I wouldn't be able to show you that as well, because I can't capture 4K footage, but believe me, it looks absolutely stunning. It's also very cheap as well. It costs around $53 US or around £39 if you're in the UK, so it's going to suit even the most modest of budget. I cannot recommend this box enough, and it is quickly becoming one of my most favourite boxes of all time. So that brings us to the end of today's video. I really hope you've enjoyed it. If you did like it, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because that really helps as well. Also, leave me a comment in the comment section if you have any questions or ideas, and I'm sure to respond to you when I can. There's also the Facebook group. There'll be a link in the description to that. Come and talk to us over there. A lot of great guys over there, a lot of good banter going on. There's also the website MXQproject.com. We've got loads of articles and tutorials and reviews on there. We're also on Twitter at MXQproject, so come and follow us over there. But until next time, I've been Scott, you have been watching the MXQ Project, and I shall see you really soon.